Okay. So I have to stream back. I know I look weird, everyone. Not that anyone's here yet, but we are doing the first. Well, let's get this back to the start. Right, so today, this is the Cam Geeks. What if we haven't been at in ages? This is the Geek Odyssey. I'm your host on Fan Mythos. Now, normally you're used to seeing this bit covered. Well, actually, you're used to seeing my avatars, or this bit of my face while this is covered. But since I'm doing a live stream, showing this part of my mouth so I can actually read and you understand it would be a better choice. So while I do live streams, I'll be like this, but when I do normal videos, I will be in the good recording, and then when you see me, that will be a different me from the one doing the voice. It's simple, really, but from now on, I'm going to read one chapter of Percy Jackson. I'm doing this so you can get regular content, and we can have discussions about the chapter we read. And then I have all that other time to work on, well, the normal videos. I've got one which currently 7 minutes long. It was originally 8. No, it's now 6:48, and it was originally 8:58. But all I've done is cut down. I need to actually start editing, and I've got 3 to 6 months to do that. That might be done first. Now, let me know in the comment section of this video, or just any way you can, let me know what you guys think of whether I should live stream or rarely edited video, you know? I'm thinking of doing a live stream like this once a week where I read the chapters. Now, I'm either thinking on Saturdays, like today, where it'll be roughly this time, or Sundays, or we could do it maybe Wednesdays or Thursdays, so it's not too close to when I would up normal video. But those would be the time, well, probably actually this time when kids come back. I'm still experimenting because I haven't actually done live before at all. So let me know what you guys think below. I guess we start off. There's no one here, so I'm essentially just talking to myself. But I didn't expect much. I should have messaged one of my friends first. So at least he would be watching, but hey. What can I do now? Absolutely nothing. That's what I can do. But I expect as we go on we get more, because the aim is to talk about. I read the book and then we discuss it as we do. And the first chapter, I believe, is actually just a small chapter. Chapter 1, I accidentally vaporized my maths teacher. So, shall we get started? Chapter 1. I accidentally vaporized my maths teacher. Oh, I wish I had a few times. I'll tell you that now. Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. If you're reading this because you think you might be one, my advice is close the book. Right now. Believe whatever lie your mum or dad told you about your birth and try to lead a normal life. Being a half-blood is dangerous. It's scary. Most of the time, it gets you killed in painful, nasty ways. If you're a normal kid reading this because you think it's fiction, great, read on. That's us. Unless. I envy you for being able to believe that none of this happened. But if you recognize yourself in these pages, if you feel something stirring inside, stop reading immediately. You might be one of us. And once you know that, it's only a matter of time before they sense it too. And they'll come for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Now, okay, hold up, like, real quick though. Wouldn't that just make, like, if you connect and then it'll make you realize, like, that warning will make you realize anyway, so best read it to be prepared, eh? It looks so weird right now. Anyway, my name is Percy Jackson. I'm 12 years old. Until a few months ago, I was a boarding student at Yancey Academy, a private school for troubled kids in upstate New York. Am I a troubled kid? Yeah, you could say that. I could start at any point in my short, miserable life to prove it. But things really started going bad last May, when our 6th grade class took a field trip to Manhattan. 28 mental case kids and 2 teachers on a yellow school bus heading to Metropolitan Museum of Art to look at ancient Greek and Roman stuff. I know, it's like torture. Most of Yancey field trips were. But Mr. Burner, our Latin teacher, was leading this trip. So I had hopes. Mr. Burner was a middle-aged guy in a motorized wheelchair. He had thinning hair and a scruffy beard and a frayed tweed jacket, which always smelled like coffee. You wouldn't think he'd be cool, but he told us stories and jokes and let us play games in class. He also had this awesome collection of Roman armour and weapons, to the only teacher whose class didn't put me to sleep. I hoped the trip would be okay. At least, I hoped for once I wouldn't get into trouble. Boy, was I wrong. See, bad things happen to me on field trips. Like at my 5th grade school, when we went to Saratoga battlefield. I had this accident with a Revolutionary War cannon. I wasn't aiming for the school bus, but of course I got expelled anyway. And before that, at my 4th grade school, when we took a behind-the-scenes tour of the Marine World Shark Pool, I sort of hit the wrong lever on the catwalk and our class took an unplanned swim. And the time before that, well, you get the idea. This trip, I was determined to be good. All the way into the city, I put up with Nancy Boba Fett. I keep to say Boba Fett there, but like, she's not from Star Wars. The frankly red-headed kleptomaniac girl hitting my best friend Grover in the back. Of the hunks of peanut butter and ketchup sandwich, Grover was an easy target. He was scrawny. He cried when he got frustrated. He must have been held back several grades because he was only a 6th grader with acne and the start of a wispy beard on his chin. On top of that, he was crippled. He had a note excusing him from PE for the rest of his life because he had some kind of muscular disease in his legs. He walked funny, like every step hurt him. But don't let it fool you. You should have seen him run when it was Enchilada Day? The cafeteria? Right, so I'm dyslexic, for those of you who don't know. So some words I might trip over, you know, like that word, let's see. Enchilada. Anyway, see, Boba Fett was throwing wads of sandwich that stuck his curly brown hair, and she knew I couldn't do anything back to her because I was already on probation. The headmaster had threatened me with death by in-school suspension if anything happened. Embarrassing or even mildly entertaining happened on this trip. I'm going to kill her, I mumbled. Grover tried to calm me down. It's okay, I like peanut butter. He dodged another piece of Nancy's lunch. I started to get up, but Grover pulled me back to my seat. You're already on probation, he reminded me. You know who'll get blamed if anything happens. Looking back on it, I wish I'd decked Nancy Boba Fett right then and there. In-school suspension would have been nothing compared to the mess I was about to get myself into. Mr. Brunner led the museum tour. He rode up front in his wheelchair, guiding us through the big, echoey galleries, past marble statues, and glass cases full of really old black and orange pottery. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. I've been a bit ill. I got better, but I'm still a bit ill. Well, not better overall, but like from my little current. It blew my mind that this stuff had survived 2,000 years. 3,000 years. Gathered us around a 4-meter tall stone column with a big sphinx on the top and started telling us how it was a grave marker. Stele. I don't know how to speak Greek, so don't expect me to be good with the Greek names, but I'm saying Stele because it's S-T-E-L-E. Let me know in the comments below, I guess. For a girl about our age. He told us about the carvings on the side. I was trying to listen to what he had to say because it was kind of interesting, but everyone around me was talking. Every time I told them to shut up, the other teacher chaperone, Miss Dodds, would give me the evil eye. Miss Dodds was this little math teacher from Georgia who always wore a black leather jacket, even though she was 50 years old. She looked mean enough to ride a Harley right to your locker. For those non-Americans, a Harley is a motorbike. I say that despite being a non-American myself and only knowing this because of this book. So, the more you know. She had come to Yancey halfway through the year when our last math teacher had a nervous breakdown. From her first day, Miss Dodds loved Nancy, Boba Fett, and figured he was devil spawn. She would point her crooked finger at me and say, "Now, honey." Oh, that wasn't real sweet at all. "Now, honey," real sweet. And I knew I was going to get after-school tuition for a month. One time, after she'd made me erase answers out of old math workbooks until midnight, I told Grover I didn't think Miss Dodds was human. He looked at me real serious and said, "You're absolutely right." Mr. Bruner kept talking about Greek funeral art. Finally, Nancy Boba Fett snickered something about the naked guy on the stele. I turned around and said, "Will you shut up?" Probably didn't say it like that. It came out louder than I had meant. The whole group laughed. Mr. Burner stopped his... "Mr. Jackson," he said, "did you have a comment?" My face was total red. I said, "No, sir." Mr. Burner pointed out the pictures on the ceiling. "Perhaps tell us what this picture represents." I looked at the carving and felt a flush of relief because I actually recognized it. That's Kronos eating his kids, right? "Yes," Mr. Burner, obviously not satisfied. "And he did this because, well," I racked my brain to remember. "Kronos was the king god, and God?" Mr. Burner asked. "Titan," I corrected myself, "and he didn't trust his kids who were the gods, so Kronos ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a rock to eat instead. And later, when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad, Kronos, into barfing up his brothers and sisters." "Ew," said one of the girls behind me. "And so there was a big fight between the god titans," I continued, "and the gods won." Some snickers from the group behind me. Nancy Boba Fett mumbled to a friend, like we're going to use this in real life. Like it's actually going to say on applications. "Please explain why Kronos his kids." "And why, Mr. Jackson?" Bruner said. To paraphrase Miss Pitt's excellent question, does this matter in real life? "Busted," Grover muttered. "Shut up," Nancy hissed, her face even brighter red than her hair. At least Nancy got into trouble too. Mr. Bruner was the only one to have ever caught her saying anything wrong. He had radar ears. I thought about his question and I shrugged. I don't know, sir. I see. Mr. Brenner looked disappointed. Well, half credit, Mr. Jackson. Zeus did indeed feed Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which Mr. Brenner pointed out to one of the pictures on the stele. Perhaps you'll tell us what this picture represents. I looked at the card and felt a flush of relief because I had actually recognized. Oh, wait, what? It went back. Oh, my bad. It, for some reason, went back. Which made him. Okay, so mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children, who, of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach. The gods defeated their father, sliced him to pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains in Tartarus, the darkest part of the underworld. On that happy note, it's time for lunch. Miss Dodds, would you lead us back outside? The class drifted, the girls holding their stomachs, the guys pushing each other around and acting like doofuses. Grover and I were about to follow Mr. Brenner when Mr. Brenner said, "Mr. Jackson, I knew this was coming." I told Grover to keep going. Then I turned toward Mr. Brenner. "Sir?" Mr. Brenner had the look that wouldn't let go, intense brown eyes that could have been 1,000 years old and had seen everything. "You must learn the answer to my question," Mr. Brenner told me. "About the Titans? About real life, and how your studies apply to it." "Oh. What you learn from me," he said, "is vitally important. I expect you to treat it as such. I will accept only the best from you, Percy Jackson." I wanted to get angry. This guy pushed me so hard. I mean, sure, it was kind of cool on tournament days when he dressed in a suit of Roman armor and shouted, "What ho!" and challenged us, sword point against chalk, to run to the board and name every Greek and Roman person who ever lived and their mother and what god they worshipped. But Mr. Brenner expected me to be as good as everyone else, despite the fact I had dyslexia and attention deficit disorder, known as ADHD or AD. I have both of those, so I'm a demigod. I had never made it above a C grade in my life. No, he didn't expect me to be as good. He expected me to be better. And I just couldn't learn all those names and facts, much less spell them correctly. I mumbled something about trying harder while Mr. Brenner took one long look at the stele like he'd been at the girl's funeral. He told me to go outside and eat my lunch. The class gathered on front steps of the museum where we could watch the foot traffic along 5th Avenue. Ahead, a huge storm was brewing with clouds blacker than I'd ever seen over the city. I'd figured maybe it was global warming or something, because the weather all across New York State had been weird since Christmas. We'd have massive snowstorms, flooding, wildfires from lightning strikes. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was a hurricane blowing in. Nobody else seemed to notice. Some of the guys were pelting pigeons with Lunchables, crackers. Nancy Bobofit was trying to pickpocket something from an old lady's bag. Of course, Miss Dodds wasn't seeing anything. Grover and I sat at the edge of a fountain, away from the others. We thought that maybe if we did that, everybody wouldn't know we were from that school. The school full of freaks who couldn't make it elsewhere. Detention? Grover asked. Nah, not from Brenner. I just wished he'd ask me sometimes. I mean, I'm not a genius. Grover didn't say anything for a while. When I thought he was going to give me some deep philosophical comment to make me feel better. He said, "Can I have your apple?" I didn't have much of an appetite, so I let him take it. I watched the stream of cabs going down Fifth Avenue and thought about my mum's apartment, only a little ways uptown from where we sat. I'd seen her since Christmas. I wanted so bad to jump in a taxi and head home. She'd hug me and be glad to see me, but she'd be disappointed too. She'd send me right back to Yancey, remind me that I had to try harder, even if it was my 6th school in 6 years, and I was probably going to get kicked out again. I wouldn't be able to stand that look she'd give me. Mr. Brunner parked his wheelchair at the base of a handicapped ramp. He ate celery while he read a paperback novel. The red umbrella stuck up from the back of his chair, making it look like a motorized cafe table. I was about to unwrap my sandwich when Nancy Bobofit appeared in front of me with her ugly friends. I guess she'd gotten tired of stealing from tourists and dumped half-eaten lunch on Grover's lap. Oops, she grinned at me with her crooked teeth. Her freckles were orange, as if someone had spray painted her face with liquid Cheetos. I'd stay cool. The school counselor had told me a million times, count to 10, get rid of your temper. But when I was mad, my mind went blank. A wave rolled in my ears. I don't remember touching her, but the next thing I knew, I was sitting on her butt in the fountain, screaming, "Percy pushed me!" Miss Dodds materialised next to us. Some of the spring, did you see that? The water. Like it grabbed her. I didn't know what they were talking about. All I knew is I was in trouble again. As soon as Miss Dodds was sure poor little Nancy was okay, promising to get her new shirt in a museum gift shop, etc., etc., Miss Dodds turned to me, triumphant fire in her eyes. "Now, honey." "I know," I grumbled, a moan. "A month erasing textbooks." That wasn't the thing to say. "Come with me," Miss Dodds said. "Wait," Grover yelped. "It was me. I pushed her." I stared at him and I couldn't believe he was trying to cover for me. Miss Dodds, scared to death. She glared at him so hard his whiskery chin trembled. "I don't think so, Mr. Underwood," she said. "But you will stay here." Grover at me desperately. Now that's one thing that is different from the series, if I remember correctly. Because he did not stare him then. I'll tell you. "It's okay, man," I told him. "Thanks for trying, honey." Thanks for trying. Thanks for trying. "Honey," Miss Dodds barked at me. "Now!" Nancy Bobofit smirked. I gave her my deluxe "I'll kill you later." I then turned to face Miss Dodds. She wasn't there. She was standing at the museum entrance, way at the top of the steps, gesturing impatiently for me to come in. How'd she get there so fast? I have moments like that, when my brain falls asleep or something, and the next thing I know I've missed something, as if a puzzle piece fell out of the universe and left me staring at the blank space behind it. The school counsellor told me this was part of my ADHD, my brain misinterpreting things. I wasn't so sure. I went after Miss Dodds. Halfway up the steps, I glanced back at Grover. He was looking pale, cutting his eyes between me and Mr. Burner, like he wanted Mr. Burner to notice what was going on. But Mr. Burner was absorbed in his novel. I looked back up. Miss Dodds had disappeared. She was now inside the building, at the end of the entrance hall. Okay, I thought. She's going to make me buy a new shirt for Nancy Bobofit at the gift shop, but apparently that wasn't the plan. I followed her deeper into the museum. When I finally caught up with her, we were back at the Greek and Roman sections. Except for us, the gallery was empty. Miss Dodds stood with her arms crossed into the big marble frieze? F-R-I-E-Z-E. Please let me know what that spells below. Of the Greek gods. She was making this weird noise with her throat, like growling. Even without the noise, I would have been nervous. Being alone with a teacher, especially Miss Dodds. Something about the way she looked at the phrase, as if she wanted to pulverize it. "You've been giving us problems, honey," she said. I did the safe thing and said, "Yes, ma'am." She tugged on the cuffs of her leather jacket. "Did you really think you would get away with it?" I looked into her eyes. Was beyond mad. It was evil. She's a teacher, I thought nervously. It's not she's going to hurt me. I said, I'll try harder, ma'am." Thunder shook the building. "We're not fools, Percy Jackson," Miss Dodd said. "It was only a matter of time before we found you out. Confess, and you will suffer less pain." I don't know why I'm making her speak like that, but that's how she's speaking from now on. I didn't know what she was talking about. All I could think of was that the teachers must have found some illegal stash of candy I've been selling in my dorm rooms. Or maybe they'd realise I got my essay on Tom Sawyer from the internet, ever reading the book, and now they were going to grade. Now they were going to take away my grade, or worse, they were going to make me read the book. Okay, that's pretty funny. "Well," she demanded. "Ma'am, I don't..." "Your time is up," she hissed. Then the weird thing happened. Her eyes began to glow like barbecue coals. Her fingers stretched, turning into talons. Her jaw melted into large, leathery wings. She wasn't human. She was a shriveled hag with bat wings and claws and a mouth full of yellow fangs. And she was about to slice me into ribbons. Things got even stranger. Mr. Burner, who'd been out in the front of the museum a minute before, wheeled his chair into the doorway of the gallery, holding in his hand. "What ho, Percy!" he shouted and tossed the pen through the air. Miss Dodds lunged at me. With a yelp, I dodged and felt lash the air next to my ear. I snatched the ballpoint pen out of the air. When it was in my when it was in my hands, it wasn't a pen anymore. It was a sword, Mr. Brunner's bronze sword, which he had always used on tournament day. Miss Dodd spun towards me with murderous look in her eyes. My knees were jelly. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the sword. She snarled, "Die, honey," and she flew straight at me. Absolute terror ran through my body. I did the only thing that came natural. I swung the sword. The metal blade hit her shoulder and passed clean through her body, as if it were made of water. Miss Dodds was a sandcastle in a power fan. She exploded into yellow powder. Vapor was on the spot, leaving nothing but the smell of sulphur and a dying scream and a chill of evil in the air. As if those two glowing red eyes were still watching me. I was alone. There was a ballpoint pen in my hand. Mr. Brunner wasn't there. He was there but me. My hands were trembling. My lunch must have been contaminated with magic mushrooms or something. Had I imagined the whole thing? I went back outside. It had started to rain. Grover was sitting by the fountain. A museum mat painted over his head. Nancy Bobofet was still standing there, soaked from her swim in the fountain, grumbling to her ugly friends when she saw me. "I hope Miss Kerr whipped you." "Whipped your butt," I said. "Who?" "Our teacher, duh." I blinked. We had no teacher, Miss Kerr. I asked Nancy what she was talking about. She just rolled her eyes and turned away. I asked Grover where Miss Dodds was. He said, "Who?" But he paused, and he wouldn't look at me, so I thought he was messing with me. "Not funny, man." I told him, "This is serious." Thunder boomed overhead. I saw Mr. Brunner sitting under the red umbrella, reading his book, as if he'd never moved. I went over to him. He looked a little distracted. "Ah, that would be my pen. Please bring your own writing utensils in the future, Mr. Jackson. I hand over. I hadn't even realised I was still holding it. Sir, I said, where's Miss Dodds? He stared at me blankly. Who? The other chaperone, Miss Dodds, the maths teacher. He frowned and sat forward, looking mildly concerned. Percy. There is no Miss Dodds this trip. As far as I know, there have never been Miss Dodds at Yancey Academy. Are you feeling right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the first chapter. Now, next time, I'll actually tell you guys in advance on my community post, so be sure to check that out. And I will post it on my social media. I did time because I was a bit rushed. As I said, I have been ill, so I can only do it when I can. I hope you guys like this. Obviously, it'll be with you guys watching. I'll be able to interact with you, and we'll have more fun. But I hope you guys like it. I might do some gaming content. I don't know, because that just adds to the workload. This is the problem. Is I either need money to hire someone, which I don't have, or I need to edit it myself, or I somehow find a way to live stream them. To which the games I'm thinking of doing were Overwatch, the old Friday the 13th game, which I think is pretty good, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, which is a good game. I prefer the Jason game, the Friday the 13th, but not many people are playing it. And I don't like the Friday the Texas one because I'm not good at it and it's a bit confusing. But I've only played it like when I first got it, when it first came out, and then yesterday. So that could just be my lazy butt. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Oh, as I said, I've got a video that probably will be out in the next month, 2, maybe 3, but I'm thinking probably next month or 2. So be sure to check that, as that will be a... Ooh, what is the video again? That will be a Naruto in Naruto in the One Piece world, but I'm making him as if his powers. So like, I'm making him as if he was a One Piece character. So I'm not just taking him and putting him in the One Piece world. I'm making him trying to get his powers as close to possible using the rules of One Piece. That's what I'm doing. I made the script ages ago. I think it's one of the best scripts I have ever written, but I didn't have the editing ability for it, and I still don't. But I thought better out there. Anyway. Thank you guys for watching. I am your host on Mythos. Until next time.